So yeah, today we'll be discussing about the threat landscape for the Philippines financial industry. And again, my name is Adrian Kamat. I'm with Cyberint. I'm the threat intelligence finance industry expert. First of all, the agenda. We're gonna be. I'm gonna be showing to you the landscape. We're going to show the major 2021 incidents and their assessments from us, and some high-level techniques that is being used by threat actors nowadays. And also, we're going to be discussing the alleged Comelec hack. Uh, this I'm going to be showing to you the connections later on why we'll be discussing this Comelec hack as well. And at the end of the webinar, we'll be having some time for Q&A. So please feel free to ask any questions that you have. And let's start. So for the timeline of 2021 from January to December, we have a lot of threats for the Philippines. Some are minor, some are major, and most of the major incidents are already here in the timeline that you're seeing right now. So this is based on Cyberint's information from what we have gathered from the deep, from the dark, and from the open web, and from studies as well that we have read, from investigations that we have done, from the threat actors that we have observed and their behaviors. So here you go. From January to February, there was a rise in credit card compromise here in the Philippines. This is because threat actors nowadays, as soon as they find a website that accepts a certain BIN or a BIN number, a bank identification number, they would then the threat actors would then just generate credit card numbers or payment card numbers out from just the specific BIN. And once they get that, they would be sharing it to their friends, to their colleagues, or to other threat actors, or sometimes they would be selling a bunch of this. So there's a rise in that one. Maybe because they have found a website that accepts those payment card compromise. Also by February, and I think it's about the end of February when we have that Kashalo data breach. And these data breaches are all PII or personally identifiable information that could be used to create dummy accounts or mule accounts in banks. And then around May, when we have multiple incidents, we have here our detection of a true login from one local bank here in the Philippines. Of course, we have the AXA data breach, or they were also attacked by a ransomware. And of course, we have the KYC breach of a local fintech and investment company. This fintech and investment company, they're not mainstream companies, but then again, these KYC files are usable for major banks or major fintech companies here in the Philippines, because the fintech that was breached and the investment company that was breached is following standards of how to accept KYC files. So if the bigger guys and the smaller guys are following the same standards of KYC acceptance, then most probably those KYC files that was breached from the smaller guys can also be used to create dummy accounts or mule accounts with major banks and fintechs here in the Philippines. Right? So around June and July, we also have an OTP bypass for one of the local major banks here again in the Philippines. It was an OTP slash business logic bypass, but it was abused by the threat actors, and a lot of money was transferred from victims going to the threat actors' banks. I'm gonna be discussing some of this later on in the next slides, right? Okay, so for the month of August, we also had a major local e-wallet. It was abused by carders, and this e-wallet was expecting to see vendors from, their vendors being abused by threat actors, and not the local way of carding, I mean, not the usual way of carding, but rather these threat actors found another avenue to target the to use credit card numbers or payment card numbers, even if they are generated. So it was a major local e-wallet provider. Also, during the fourth quarter, wherein the holidays are coming, we had the whole Philippines actually. I think this went to the mainstream media. Even the Senate, I think, wants to investigate this one, the SMS spams that a lot of people have been receiving. It was around late September up until about mid-November when we have experienced this one, because I personally experienced these SMS spamming. But then again, but from the third quarter going to the fourth quarter, there was also an increase in SMS messages that were that what we call SMS smishing. These smishing messages targets bank customers and lets them click on a link that was supposed to go to a fake banking website and harvest or steal their credentials. And these fake websites then housed a phishing site that mimics the actual bank's website, but also in a what we call a true login phishing kit, wherein the phishing website can actually know if the victim is an actual banking customer or not. And also sometimes these true login websites can also show the victim their actual balance, their actual names, their bank account numbers, or even birth dates and telephone numbers. They can also show that depending on these API abuses that we have seen so far. So API abuse and true login, these are all these were all seen last fourth quarter of 2021. No? Also, we have seen the API abuse method in email checkers. Just so if the threat actors say, for example, they have 1,000 list of email addresses, they would know which of those 1,000 email addresses are actual banking customers and send them appropriate messages only. So we've seen that with email checkers. Also, I think there was a number checker. And also, between October and November, I think around that time, we also had the ransomware attack on SNR. This, as you may all know, SNR is a grocery shopping chain. It's popular in the Western countries, and when it came here in the Philippines, because it's westernized, and a lot of people actually went to SNR. They are customers of SNR, and when the ransomware hit this company, the threat actors also gathered the information from them, dumped their database, and posted it for sale in the dark web. And the information from SNR are very sensitive, like not just the typical PII that you usually see on breaches, like names, email addresses, and password, but rather we also saw a column called number of children, which, as for the data that we have reviewed, it's just a column, but there are blank rows in there. But if we saw probably the whole data that came from SNR, maybe some of those customers actually answered how many children do they have, what are the names of their children. So it's that kind of information that is out there for SNR. And also, for the month of December, we have a major bank fraud incident that the news also hyped. If I can say that word, they hyped this incident, although this has been happening already in the past. Like for June and July, we also have a major local bank that had an OTP bypass and a lot of victims as well, but it wasn't that hype compared to the one in December. Okay, so that is the timeline for 2021. These are the most notable threats that we had, right? So we're going to be discussing some of these methods that the threat actors have used. So the most notable here is the true login. Down in October and November, we have seen a true login API abuse rise amongst threat actors. They're actually looking for ways to abuse these APIs. So these threat actors, we have talked to them. We do human human operations on them. So on the left side over here, it's our avatar. Our avatar is a internally developed profile that we disguise as threat actors as well. So we could interact with real threat actors, ask them about things, buy things from them, and that's and whatnot. So that's our avatar. So as you can see on the left side over here, our avatar is interacting with a threat actor who's selling a scammer. A scammer is a slang for street language for phishing kit. So he's selling a phishing kit, and it's the phishing kit is a true login, and he's selling it for 1,000 pesos only. But these phishing kits can go from 1,000 pesos. Actually, some are even free, and goes up to 15, 20,000 pesos, depending on how complicated the phishing kit can get. Right? If the phishing kit can actually show the balance, if the phishing kit can automatically transfer money without the threat actor doing anything, then it would be much higher than that. Right? On the right side over here, we also have a threat actor posted in his social media that he's advertising his phishing tools. Among them is a true login kit as well, and some other tools like web shells, mailers, and also they have here they're selling RDPs or remote desktops, and also spam tools. Scam pages is also another term for phishing kits. Scam pages, just street language for phishing kit, right? So this is a screenshot of what we are seeing in the wild from threat actors. So what is a true login? So true login phishing kits, as I've said a while ago, it can directly connect to the front end of the real online banking. Sometimes not just the front end, but also the back end. And it can show real-time account information on the phishing site, right? As I've told you a while ago, banking information like the balance, the name, the account number, it can show those information if it has access to the proper APIs. As you know, technology nowadays depends heavily on APIs, and so applications can communicate between each other, right? So that's one of the purposes of API. So unlike the typical phishing kits, a typical phishing kit, once a victim logs in there, it won't do anything but rather just show a blank page or go back to the home page. That's it. But with the true login phishing kit, if a victim logs in and used possibly the wrong password, it can even show the victim that, hey, you used the wrong password, because it has connection to the front end or to the back end of the real online banking site. Sometimes Telegram or other chat applications are used to automate the data harvesting. The typical phishing kits, you can see the results. They call it the results of the phishing. The credentials are saved on a log file, right? But today, the most common are Telegram bots, wherein the resulting credentials are sent to Telegram instead of being stored on a log file. So this screenshot down here, it's a code snippet taken from one true login phishing kit. So this contains a hard-coded API. The URL down below, we obfuscated this one for privacy reasons, but it's an API, and on the top, we have here this the headers. So the threat actors got a hold of which app version to use, which session ID he can use, or the OS that are acceptable for this API, those user agents that are acceptable for this API. Also, we have here the RSIDs, a lot of private information that the API and the actual app should be the only ones that knows. know about this, but the threat actor got a hold of this one. So this code came from a true login phishing kit. So how did the threat actor got a hold of this one? So these phishing threat actors, uh, we have a theory, but it's very highly likely that this is what they're doing. So this threat actor hunts for publicly available APIs. When we say publicly available, they go to APK, they download the APK file of your banking apps. When I say APK, these are your Android files, the installers. They download that and they reverse engineer the app. They would reverse engineer it and would know how the application actually works, which URL, which APIs it connects to. And once they know how the APK file works, they would then gather the APIs from there and integrate that API to a phishing kit. And when again, as explained a while ago, when the victim inputs his credentials to the phishing site, the back end of the phishing kit will then connect to the API to query information uh, the the name or the balance and a lot of those information from the bank. In some cases, they can also use the API to serve as an API checker, an email checker. Say, as I've told a while ago, say for example, we have 1,000 email addresses, and the threat actor doesn't want to just send random bank messages to these 1,000 email addresses, right? He wants to know which ones are bank customers of bank A and which ones are for bank B, and he would know which email or message he would send to that specific email address. So they would use an API to check all those 1,000 lists and know which ones are actual banking customers and which ones are not. In others, they could use this API to get confidential information, again, as I've told you a while ago. So yeah, any questions so far? I think there's one in the Q&A, and Tanya already answered this one.
Yeah, just answered. If you would like to extend a bit, elaborate, you're welcome.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Later on after these slides, let's go on to the Q&A if we still have more time to discuss this one, to discuss the questions, okay? All right, so that's the chain of events for phishing threat actors on how they gather and abuse those banking APIs. So again, another example of promoting true login phishing kits. These phishing kits, here we have Gustavo. He's a known threat actor. He's going by the alias Gustavo, and he's offering in a Telegram group his phishing toolkits, phishing tools like true login phishing kits and also spam tools. Some are dummy banks and e-wallets, and also he has a mailing list, a million email addresses from Yahoo and Gmail that are all Filipino based. So a lot of threat actors are doing this. This is just one example. This is just Gustavo. And this is on the right side here, our avatar interacting with another threat actor. And as I said a while ago, we have 1,000 pesos from one threat actor. And this one, he offered the true login for 20,000 pesos. But since that's too high for other TAs or threat actors, the common practice for the sellers, they haggle the price so that just that they can encash the true login kit. You know what I mean? Like it would be useless for them to just sit on the phishing kit. That's why they would just haggle the price and just take the cash. So they start up very high, 20,000 pesos. You can go down to 15. Others can go half of that, actually up to 10,000 pesos as well. So these are just examples of threat actors promoting true login phishing kits. So let's discuss one related incident way back mid-2021, wherein a major local bank suffered losses due to phishing and also due to a business logic bypass. And several social media posts were also seen that these threat actors advertising that they have an OTP bypass for this specific bank, and they could use old credentials taken from old phishing campaigns. Say, for example, a threat actor from 2020 did a phishing campaign, and he just gathered those usernames and passwords. He can then sell those credentials to another threat actor that has an OTP bypass or a business logic bypass. And this is what happened. So the screenshot over here is a threat actor showing off that he was able to transfer 66,000 pesos by abusing the OTP bypass. We have seen as high as 450,000 if I'm not mistaken. That's one of the highest that I've seen for fund transfer between from a victim going to a threat actor's dummy account. So how did this happen? It's basically a business logic bypass wherein by design, it should have helped actual customers to, it would have eased how to transfer money from the customer's savings account to another savings account. The design here was to help the customers use the application better to ease the usage, right? That's the design. But these threat actors abused this one. They tried to, I think we suspect that what happened here is that they have enrolled new savings account inside an online account. Like one online account can contain a lot of savings account under the same name, right? They just have to enroll one. A threat actor will just have to enroll one in there, and they could then transfer money from one savings to another inside an online account. And way back 2021, we have reported that 7 out of 10 banks here in the Philippines did not have OTP during login, but only have OTP during money transfer. And that was also abused by the threat actor, since logging in would not require an OTP and only money transfer. But then they have found a way to just enroll the savings account, and from one savings to another savings did not require an OTP, which is a business logic bypass or a business logic design that was abused by the threat actor. So that's why these things happens. It's 100% success according to the threat actor. They are buying credentials from other threat actors from old phishing campaigns just to use it on this business logic bypass. This one is not an API abuse. This is just a business logic abuse. It's a bypass for the design is being bypassed, basically. This methodology also circulated. I can say it's dark web, but also in inner circles of threat actors. The methodology already circulated there. But the bank's weak security mechanisms for login and then the money transfer are being bypassed. These threat actors then collected customer credentials, as I said a while ago, from other TAs amongst peers, and then they would do the bypass and actually transfer, withdraw money. So where do they transfer this money anyway? They transfer this not to their actual accounts, but to Mule and dummy accounts. What's the difference between the two? So Mule accounts are the threat actor that is creating a Mule account would need a verifier to fully activate the account. An example would be me. For example, I'm a threat actor. I create a bank account that is not yet fully verified via online. It's easy enough to create an account online nowadays. Because of the pandemic, we have opened the door for account opening via the internet, right? So we have opened that, and the threat actor can just create a non-verified account, bank account, and he would then go post in social media sample here on the right side, the yellow one, he would go post in social media looking for passport holders, and they would pay them 500 pesos just to verify just to fully verify a bank account that the threat actor made. That's what I would do if I was the threat actor, right? So that's the mule account. So mule accounts, this accounts can also be legitimate accounts as well, that are being sold to threat actors by people in the depressed areas of the country. So I think we have heard some news or some rumors from social media as well that a lot of threat actors go to the depressed areas of the country asking door to door if they would sell an e-wallet, a fully verified e-wallet or a fully verified bank account to them, even without the balance, just as long as they could log it in. And yeah, they're doing that. So to be called a mule account, the name or the identity of the account is from a real person, right? So the difference, I mean, that's the thing that identifies a mule account. The verifier knows that his account is being used on his bank account is being used in illegal activities. Dummy accounts, on the other hand, are created by using fake or stolen identities. So if I was a threat actor, I would then go in the dark web and buy KYC files, IDs, and maybe I could go to the depressed areas and not buy. I'm not gonna buy verifiers or not gonna buy accounts, but rather I would go to pickpocket areas and buy the ID cards from them. That's one way that these threat actors are doing this. And then they would be using these IDs or these files or KYC files to create a dummy account. So that's the difference between a mule and a dummy account. The difference basically is, for a mule, the identity of the account is from a real person, and they know that they're being used in illegal activities. And compared to dummy accounts wherein the name is either fake or stolen identities. So these threat actors use these dummy accounts to pass around the money. They pass it from e-wallet going to another bank account, a dummy bank account, going to another e-wallet, or sometimes they go directly international, like international and non-centralized, like Bitcoin or whatever crypto currencies are available during their campaign. They would transfer that money internationally, and then they would put it back here in another dummy account, and that's the only time they would cash it out. Sometimes they would cash it out via sari-sari stores, because e-wallets here in the Philippines accept cashing out via sari-sari stores, and it's as easy as that. And they wouldn't be having problems on CCTVs and whatnots on these small businesses. Right, so those are for mule and dummy accounts. So these dummy accounts, they are using KYC files that are stolen. So in 2021, we have discovered that two companies, Philippine companies, AGMC and TagCash, they have been hacked. Basically, they were attacked with ransomware, and their information was stolen as well by the threat actor, which is the most common ransomware attack now. They don't just encrypt the files, but rather they steal a copy of it first before encrypting these machines. So these two companies have KYC files, IDs, and proof of identification, documents of like passports and SSS IDs, and a lot more information, a lot more identification cards were hacked or stolen by these threat actors. Another thing, they have also stolen database entries, such as names, email addresses, and also numbers and birth dates. These are just PII, and these are 54,000 items or 54,000 files allegedly stolen from AGMC and TagCash. And the method of attack, according to the threat actor, when we talked to him, our avatar talked to him, they attacked with the ransomware and seems like they have a backup, so that's why they did not pay. So the threat actor just leaked, just sold these ID cards already. So knowing that this information is out there, it can now be used by threat actors to create dummy accounts. And the only thing that the banks can do here is to tighten up the validation of KYC, or when somebody opens an account in your bank, we would I think it would be advised for you guys to do a video call or a video interview for the one who's opening an account. Also, it's good to verify the ID number with the actual agency that the ID is connected to. For example, a driver's license. It would be good if you could use the license number and ask LTO, is this actually the person who's in the picture? Is this the name? And is this real? Basically, that's how you validate it. And then once that is approved, that's the only time you would verify the account. I know it is, again, cybersecurity and usability has been on the other side of this, of the balance, time and again, right? It's either you have more security and less usability, or more usability or more ease but less security. And it has been a battle between the two from the start of time, I could say. So also, this information from KYC files, I mean, these KYC files are not just being hacked from companies. A lot of times, information are also being stolen directly from users. We have a lot of malware strains, what we call this info stealers, and these information stealers are installed in everyday people's computer, right? And once they're there, they steal information like credentials or payment card info that are saved in the machine, in the computer. Once, say for example, you have a on your computer, when you log into a specific website, say for example, facebook.com, when you log in there, there's this option wherein the browser could save your password so that you won't have to type it again next time. And this information can be harvested by malware once the malware gets inside your computer. So that's every day we are seeing thousands and thousands of credentials that are being stolen by stealer malware or info stealer malwares. And aside from credentials, they can also steal cookies from your machine. Cookies basically is your session on a website. Say, for example, you log into facebook.com. Every time you click on a picture, you don't have to log in every time, but rather the Facebook knows that you are already logged in. So basically, it's a session of some sorts. So that's how one of the things that a cookie does. And once the threat actor gets a hold of your cookie on time, say for example, he got it on time and the cookie is still valid, he can then steal your session, log into Facebook using your cookie, even without a credential. He can to steal your session. You can see now in your Facebook information. So aside from this, payment card information are also being stored in browsers, and they can steal that. Also, if you type in your card number on files and just save that, like your notebook in your computer or whatnot, they can also steal files. So yeah, be careful with that. So with that said, a lot of banking customers have become victim to this malware. Yes. Aside from phishing, if a victim does not know that he has been infected with malware, he won't even know that it's time to change his password. So the threat actor now got a hold of his credential and his cookies, and maybe he could use that to log in into the banking site and steal money, right? So one way to defer these attacks, or even if the threat actor gets a hold of this information, to defer the attack, MFA system should be in place. Of course, additionally, password hygiene for your customers are very, very important, because if the threat actor stocks all those credentials for some time before he used it, maybe he's gathering it there for a purpose or selling it someday. After 3 months, if your policies, all your customers change their password every 3 months, and after 3 months, whatever the threat actors holding would no longer be useful for, especially credentials, would no longer be useful to log in the banking website. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so the info stealer for the third quarter of 2021, Philippines is at the top 10. Top 10, we have 29,506 reported victims, and among the top 10, India is the biggest one, and Philippines is out there. This is basically, not really, this is mostly because of low cybersecurity knowledge of technology users in the Philippines. We are very, very lenient when we are using technology. That a lot of us people, a lot of Filipinos have cell phones, a lot of Filipinos have computers. They know how to use it, but they don't know the risks. They don't even know that some Filipinos don't even know that malwares exists, right? So a lot of Filipinos are victimized by info stealers. We have 29,000. This is for Q3 2021. We have 29,000 reported victims, and also citizens per attack, we have 3,782. And yes, we can say that Philippines is one of the most targeted countries by info stealers. Most of the information that I saw from info stealers, that from victims, I mean, that have been infected by info stealers, is that they are downloading cracked files of legitimate applications that are paid legitimate applications. So they don't want to pay, so they look for a cracked version in the internet, and threat actors abuse those searches and replace the cracked version with info stealer malware. So a lot of those I've seen from Filipinos. Okay, those are the most common attack that we have seen in the Philippines. Again, going back, the trend for the last quarter of 2021, I think up until the early 2022, we have seen API abuse and smishing. Once these two technology or two methods have been abused by threat actors, it would be a disaster, because with comparing SMS senders with email senders, the problem with email senders for threat actors is that they have to encrypt the email in a way that Gmail or Yahoo would not detect it as a spam. Because if Gmail and Yahoo or Hotmail will detect it as a spam, they would then just either block it up or throw it in the spam folder, right? And a lot of you guys don't even open your spam folders, just the inbox folder, right? So that's one of the methods that threat actors are having a problem right now. They have to do an inbox, quote unquote, an inbox when they're using email senders. And that's not a problem for them if they're gonna do smishing instead of email, the traditional email phishing. So smishing, it's been growing since the third and fourth quarter, and until now, the first quarter of 2022, we've seen a lot of smishing going on, and a lot of API abuse have been going on as well. These API abuses as early as now, since a lot of threat actors here in the Philippines are script kiddies or not that complicated anyway, so they just use it to bypass. No, they just use it to check if it's an actual customer or not. But if they are more complicated threat actors, they could possibly get more out of an API abuse compared to what we are seeing right now. Sometimes it could be used to bypass the actual OTP. It could be used to gather more other customers' information once they get inside once they get access to an API. Maybe the API spits up the database information of your banking system. It depends on the API. There's a lot of APIs that are being used by the banking industry, different APIs for different banks. Right. So if the threat actor got a hold of the right one that he can probably abuse to gather information about your employees or about your customers, bypass OTPs, automatic transfer of money without even uh, clicking anything, as long as he's got a hold of the fund transfer API, quote unquote fund transfer API, then he's got everything already. So API abuse is on the rise. We have seen it being abused. We are we are recommending that you guys protect your APIs. Review if these APIs has holes on them or has vulnerabilities on them. Review your third-party vendors, third-party payment apps as well. Say, for example, you have a partner company that is using your payment app or your banking app for payments and using it for using the APIs in it. Then please also review those codes, as they might be leaked somewhere, and that API is now compromised because of your third-party vendor that doesn't have any security at all. So yeah, API abuse, it's a big deal. It's a big threat for the Philippines, and we're seeing it being abused. I see there's a lot of questions in our Q&A chat.
Yeah, I'm in the process of answering them, and please, you can
Okay.
your insights. I think some of them you will have additional information to it.
Okay, thank you, Tanya. Okay, moving forward, let's talk about the Comelec hack. So way back January 8th, Manila Bulletin claimed that the Commission on Election, or the Comelec, has been hacked. And Comelec has been denying it ever since. And they said that the downloaded data included information that could affect 2022 elections, right? Like passwords, admin credentials, domain policies, even network network access, and QR code captures of the Bureau of Canvassers with login and passwords. These are the information that Manila Bulletin claimed. So on January 17th, we have seen a group that they are claiming they have 60 gigabytes worth of election-related data, and they're calling it the Philippines' most controversial data. And they told that they're going to be selling it to the highest bidder only, and they're just going to be selling it only once, to the highest bidder. But as soon as they have posted it, upon the next checking, they've deleted the post. We're not sure that time if they have sold it or not. We're not sure if maybe they got afraid and they just took down the post, or they went to another path and maybe they would just leak it. We weren't sure on that information way back January 17th. But on January 20th, we have seen that, we have seen that they have posted partial information already on their social media account. And they have named that Smartmatic was hacked and not Comelec. So they have also posted a disclaimer in there. Apparently, XSOX, the threat actor group, they talked with Manila Bulletin before before Manila Bulletin posted that article. The two of them talked together. XOX or XSOX gave some information to Manila Bulletin, and Manila Bulletin misunderstood that information, leading to them saying that Comelec was hacked, when in fact it was Smartmatic that was hacked. So starting January 2020, they have been releasing partial information in their social media account. They have actually named Smartmatic already, and a lot of information were already posted in their social media account, network diagrams, incident reports, and just 2 days or yesterday, they have created an email address, which is xoxgroup@smartmatic.com. Meaning they have already accessed the AD system, the account domain system of Smartmatic. They're into deep. They have access to all of the information that Smartmatic has. They have network diagrams on how the voting is going to be transferred from one system to another system. They have network diagrams of the telco companies that are going to be used during the election. They have all of those, and also sample ballots as well. They have access on if they want to put a certain person as another applicant for as another candidate during the elections. They could also do that. Apparently, they could do that. That's what they said. That's what they're claiming. And yeah, Smartmatic is already compromised and not Comelec. So that's why Comelec has been denying this one. However, Comelec is not yet in the clear. So XSOX also posted on their social media that they are not targeting Comelec directly, but rather Smartmatic, right? And they said that it was way back November that they have the initial foothold with Smartmatic. However, Comelec again is not in the clear. Why? In November 2021, we have a Pinoy threat actor group. They're called the Pinoy Grey Hats, and they claim that they have compromised Comelec, and they have posted screenshots and proof. As you can see here on the right side, we have the Pinoy Grey Hats posted a screenshot of a web shell, basically a backdoor on the comelec.gov.ph's domain. What does this mean? It means that Comelec's website is hacked and Comelec's web server is already compromised. But again, it's just the web server. We don't know if the web server is actually connected to Comelec's internal servers or not. Is Comelec actually housing their own websites, or hosting their own websites, or are they using third-party hosting services for this one? So if so, then that hosting services is also compromised. But if it's connected internally, then Comelec internally would also be compromised. It's just a web shell, as you can see from here. It's just a basic WSO web shell, but the whole website, the whole web server is already compromised. They have actually downloaded the database of the website. On the right side over here, it's a part 3 of 3. They have posted part 1 and part 2 already. And these are the information that they got from the Comelec website. And when they have posted this way back in November 2021, it wasn't noticed by the media. Thus, it might not have the chance that Comelec, it doesn't have the chance that the Comelec did not notice this as well. I mean, if it didn't get to mainstream, maybe Comelec did not notice this as well. And if they did not notice this one, then they might not have patched the vulnerability that Pinoy Grey Hat abused. And they might still be vulnerable up to this day. And all of the information in the web server can be, again, assumed as compromised. So as I said a while ago, it's not just Smartmatic, but also Comelec's website. So it was allegedly hacked. but it was Smartmatic, but they are also compromised way back November and possibly until now. And aside from Comelec, we have detected last year 93 government sites. These are government websites that contains PIIs, email addresses, and passwords, and also names that these users might be banking customers as well. They might be reusing their passwords, reusing their email addresses, or if these are high-profile people, then maybe they could be used by threat actors to be used for whaling, or basically targeting high-profile people because they have more money. These 93 publicly accessible leaked databases belong to government sites on a code repository, actually. It was uploaded by the threat actor Dark Network. These government sites include Philippine Heart Center, Dangerous Drugs Board, and a lot more government sites. Most of them are city websites, but some of them are, again, very, very notable. The Philippine Heart Center. And if the Philippine Heart Center and their patient list is there, then maybe the patient list could then be converted into an email because it's just the first name underscore last name at company.com. That it could be used as a target list as well. So these databases leak usernames and password, which could result to reuse in your banking website. So the key takeaway here would be for your customers or for your users to have password hygiene. Change their password every 90 days, which is the standard nowadays. So yeah. So also in the second half of 2021, we have notable threats. The Log4Shell, for example, on December, they called it the internet is on fire, because a lot of websites, a lot of international websites, international systems are using Log4j for their logging mechanism. And it had a vulnerability wherein remote code can be executed by the threat actor that's abusing this. It gained high traction worldwide, and it's important to note that only internet-facing Java applications are vulnerable. But again, a lot of websites are internet-facing, and there are also Java applications out there. So there are lots of proof of concepts that were released during the first 2 weeks of the RCE release, or the vulnerability release. But a patch has also been released by Log4j, and it was a version 2 and should have been updated already by now. But the exploitation of this vulnerability was already campaigned by threat actors like Mirai and Conti. These are all ransomware, and they're using Log4Shell or Log4j as their way to get inside the company. So to have more information about this, we have a blog about the Log4Shell. You can go visit our site, cyberint.com/blog, or also we have a video about this, which is in YouTube. You just search Cyberint in YouTube, or go to youtube.com/cyberintdrp. It should be out there. Also, for the 2022 predictions, we know that while Conti and Lockbit will be the most dominant group for ransomware, we believe that this year we will have more new groups, as seen during the recent cases like the Avos Locker, Consari, Deadbolt. It was mid-2021 when we have the Avos Locker for SNR. And Consari, end of 2021, they are the first gang to utilize the Log4Shell, and Deadbolt also for 2022 already, where they attack the NAS. Also, back to the roots, no more encryption. New findings suggest that more ransomware groups are following a new trend of going back to old extortion techniques by demanding ransom instead of demanding ransom for uh, for the data. If not, if the ransom is not paid, they would leak it. Rather than if you don't pay the ransom, you won't get the decryption key. It's an old extortion method now that they're going to be using. So that's our 2022 prediction. And again, we have a blog for this one as well. Go to our blog, cyberint.com/blog, and we have some videos as well in our YouTube channel. Oh, one more thing. For the Philippines, we think that the API abuse will still grow, although a lot of threat actors have been on the down low for the past few weeks, as I've noticed during my investigations. They are already in the down low because of the recent arrest of some of the threat actors. That's why they're going on the down low, but they're slowly going back now that the hype has died. So moving forward, I think it would be there's still going to be an increase for API abuse, but phishing will still continue. But rather, they would go for smishing rather than the traditional email senders. Is XSOX a hacktivist or was involved in previous cyber criminal activity? XSOX is not a hacktivist, but rather, I think they're a new group for the industry, but they're not hacktivists per se. The common behavior for hacktivists is that when their beliefs are triggered, that's when they attack. But this one, it was an invitation from other threat actors for them to attack Smartmatic, and they saw that part as having to earn more money by dealing with politicians that might have a use of their information. So they're not your typical cyber criminal, but I don't think they're hacktivists. Another question: if this was an intel known in the cyber world that Comelec was hacked by Pinoy Grey Hats, is there no information sharing within government agencies in the country? We have a intelligence center. I think the country has an intelligence center, but it's not that well known. And I think they're also working with anti-cybercrime group for the police and the NBI. But I'm not sure where they're getting their intel and if they're actually monitoring intelligence from what we are monitoring. I'm not sure if they're seeing what we are seeing already. Hope that answers your question, I mean. What about double, triple, or quadruple extortion attacks for 2022? Oh yeah. Yes, this is possible. They could do that if the company that they're attacking doesn't have a lot of security in place, or say for example they don't have a backup and they have critical information and they have stored litigating information, then yeah, double, triple, quadruple extortion attacks will be used by threat actors, but we don't see that as a trending one because it won't be applicable for a lot of companies, right? Most of the companies would be double extortion attack, which is encrypt and leak. Next question. By the way, any truth to the talks going around that local threat actors are laying low after leaked video showing a matrix with their avatar and real name? Yes, they are laying low at the moment, and yes, I've seen the video. I've seen the picture as well that it's going around. And apparently the one that's showing the video is one threat actor as well. So yes, they're laying low at the moment, and it's not just because of the matrix, but the reason is because there has been an arrest already, which is very rare here in the Philippines. Okay, we have here some other questions that was already answered in the chat. The one selling the phishing kit is Filipino, is speaking Filipino, so it's a confirmed Pinoy threat actor. Yes, it is. There's a lot of Filipino threat actors, and most of them are kids, actually, starting from the age of 16 up until late 20s. The most active ones are around 19, 20, 21. Those just who just graduated college or who just graduated high school, I think, no job, so that's why they're going for this one. Possibility that PAs also abuse the public API documentation. Yes, of course. If they see the API documentation and they see a hole in there, then yes, it's a possibility. But we haven't seen that one yet. So are we to assume that MFA like OTP methodology are generally compromised and not a safe practice or authentication method? MFAs are designed to protect, to add a layer of protection like OTPs. But we have been recommending in the past, up until now, that SMS OTP is not that secure. There are more secure ways of providing OTP to our clients. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you very much, everyone.